𝗂𝗏𝗏 here, and we obviously recorded the podcast before the TJ Edwards breaking news hit. The Bears extending TJ Edwards with a 2-year deal worth $20 million. And I think this is a great move by Ryan Poles. I think that Edwards was a captain last year. He's a stalwart in this linebacker core, and he is a leader on the team. And I think Ben Johnson, having experience playing against Edwards, leads to him getting this contract, as well as Dennis Allen probably watching tape, and he's usually schemed linebackers pretty well to have decent years, and Edwards is probably a guy that they say, hey, we want this guy here. He's a leader. He's one of the few guys on the roster that has deep playoff experience when he went to the Super Bowl with the Eagles. So this is a guy that's been in the playoffs. He's experienced. He's only 29. And when the offseason began, Edwards was making $7 million per year, and that ranked 27th among off-ball linebackers. He's definitely been outplaying that deal. So this is Ryan Poles in good faith paying Edwards before he had to. He's getting the 27th most. Obviously, he's better than the 27th best linebacker in the league. So this puts him up in the top 15, 10 guys in the league at off-ball linebacker. So I think it's well worth it. Like I said, he'll be 29. He had 129 tackles last season, one behind Kevin Byard for the most on the team. His 4 sacks were third on the team, and he had an interception, 3 pass deflections, and a team-high 12 tackles for loss. So this is still a guy that's playing at a high level. And then you remember in 2023, he made 153 tackles and 3 interceptions and 2.5 sacks. So this guy's had 2 really good years of production. I think he's going to continue to improve off of that. I think this system will work better for him. I think the only downsides here is he's aging. I think that he could be better in coverage. I would like to see him more as a middle linebacker, switching with Tremaine Edmunds as the outside. I don't know if Dennis Allen has that on his radar. If he does, I think it's something he can consider. But overall, I love the deal. Rewarding one-year guys. You've locked up Kyler Gordon. Now you're locking up TJ Edwards. And I think we'll be having a similar discussion about Joe Thuney soon. And then on the next Charter podcast, we will get Ruthie and Alex's thoughts on the TJ Edwards signing, but talking to them a little bit. I think they are excited about it as well. So enjoy the rest of your night. Let's go Bulls. And we'll talk to you guys soon on the Charter podcast.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Charter Podcast, brought to you by St. Xavier University. Ruthie Polinsky, 𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗏, Alex Shapiro, back here with you, ready to talk more draft because we can't get enough, you can't get enough, and we are just having a ball. It is worth noting, fellas, today is the last day of 30 visits for teams across the league. And Clay, I don't know if you ever went on a 30 visit, but you obviously knew people who did. And there's a little bit of a misconception out there. You want to clear the air.
I've been on several 30 visits, actually, Ruthie. I think I went on 6 of those back in my day. It was like I was flying out around draft time because everybody's like, okay, who was this kid that had like a good combine from Missouri State? So people say top 30 visits, and I feel like that kind of insinuates that these are the top 30 players that you're bringing into your board. These are just 30 visits that every team gets anywhere along your draft board. If you got a guy that's maybe in the 6th round that you want to just see in person, see like, why is this guy so low when we saw him here? Maybe you bring him in. Maybe there's a guy that has a little bit of a attitude or off the field issue, and you want to bring him in and see how he fits with your guys. You'll bring him in. Maybe a guy you're not sure about. Yes, you will bring in some guys at the top of your draft board that could be that first pick sometimes, and see how he goes with inside your building. But a lot of these times, teams are trying to get to know players. They're trying to finalize their draft boards. They're trying to see, okay, if there was an off the field issue, what happened? How's this guy's personality? How does he learn? Anywhere along the draft board, it doesn't matter where. I mean, I've seen guys from the 7th round undrafted all the way to the 1st round. There's a broad, expansive horizon of guys that you'll bring in on these visits. And no, it does not mean they're drafting them, Alex Shapiro. You get 7 draft picks typically, and there's 30 visits. So some of these guys you'll draft, some of these guys they won't. But I just wanted to clarify that because I know there's been some confusion about the 30 visits.
Clay, do you have a crazy experience or story or memory from one of the 30 visits you went on?
Oh yeah, I think I shared this on the Big Pro Football Show, man. There was two that stuck out. I went to, like I said, I went to like 5 or 6 of these things. But the first one was Mike Singletary in San Francisco when he was the head coach. I remember coming in the office, San Francisco. It was kind of a rundown facility back in the day, but they just come off of a big year. I go in the office with Mike Singletary, and I sit down. And obviously, I'm from the Chicago area, and my family's huge Bears fans. I remember going to him like, "Hey, coach, I just wanted to say first and foremost, my family's a bunch of huge Bear fans, and respect what you did. You know, it's an honor to be able to, you know." And he was like, "Anyways, let's get down to business." He didn't want to hear any of it, and he goes on to say, "I watched your tape. My tight end coach told me to watch your tape. I watched your tape in Missouri State, and I thought, he's okay. Then I put on the East-West Shrine Game tape, and I said, I want that guy. So if we're going to draft you, am I getting the guy from the East-West Shrine Game, or am I getting the guy from the tape I watched during your college year?" I'm like, "You're the guy from the East-West Shrine Game, coach." So, you know, there's some funny stories. I remember sitting down with Brad Childress in Minnesota too, and leaving the room terrified. I'm like, who is this guy? Like, get me out of here. You know, Brad Childress, the old Minnesota Vikings coach. But I remember Rex Ryan and Mike Tannenbaum. I loved sitting in with those guys. Those guys were, it was like cool, great. You're kind of just hanging out. So it's all over the place what they do there. But I did have some fun experiences on mine.
Love it.
I don't know why you called me out saying the Bears aren't going to draft everybody on the 30 visit. I'm not a big top 30 guy.
No, I know. It was just because we're talking about it before.
I am team, don't get too excited about the top 30 visits. I'm team at the combine when player X says, yes, I met with Y team. It's just like, yeah, you meet with every single team.
You meet with every team. Yeah,
but yeah, I do want to underline, like, it could be a UDFA thing. Like, hey, do we have a draftable grade on you? Maybe not. But do we want to offer you a contract? If so, how high do we want to go? Do we want to get in a bidding war over you? You know, so yeah, the top 30 visits, all sorts of you said it, Clay. All big old range on the players they bring in.
Right. And like, then again, guys, you have to remember these teams only have X amount of draft picks. Like, you're bringing in maybe 30 players, but you're not able to draft all of them. It's really just an opportunity to see, oh, we want to spend more time with you. You're someone that we would maybe move around to try and get, or maybe not. And maybe you learn something about a player there that, you know, you didn't necessarily enjoy. Okay, let's get into a little bit more of this draft conversation, guys. And what we did today is we had you both split up by position, a couple of guys that are late round guys that you think could help the Chicago Bears, that would maybe go in the, what are we talking, 5th round and on here? Is that what we're thinking?
I kind of cut it off at day 3.
4th to 7th, I would say.
All right, so let's go back and forth. Clay, why don't you start us off?
And it's funny because I'll start off with running backs. I did running backs and tight ends, and Alex did wide receivers and safeties. We've talked so much about the trenches, and we think the Bears might load up on trenches early. So we wanted to see some of these later options if the Bears do load up on the trenches, what there is available, because we've all heard it's a deep running back class. It's deep tight end class. Okay, well, now it's time to show me why it's deep. Who are these guys that make it deep? Wide receiver class, I think, is deep. Safety, the Bears definitely need a safety. Do I see him drafting one early? Probably not. I just, it's I don't see it happening early for him. I wouldn't mind if 𝗰𝗶𝗶𝗹's there in the second. Probably not going to happen. So that being said, I know we just talked about the pre-draft visits and them not meaning anything, but I want to start off with my first running back, a guy that was on a pre-draft visit to Chicago, and that's 𝗪shard Smith from SMU, and a very intriguing guy. I remember we were on the Big Pro Football Show, and our producer, Casey, dropped our rundown, and he had 𝗪shard Smith was visiting the Bears, and I went and I started watching this guy's tape. And I was blown away at this guy, the fact that I'd never heard of him. And he's a guy that I think you can get in the 4th and the 5th round. But let me tell you a little bit about 𝗪shard Smith. He started his career at Miami, where he was a receiver and a return man. So this guy, that's what he specialized in, was a receiver return man. Appeared in 35 games, was second team All ACC as a return man. He had, while in Miami, he had 69 receptions for 770 yards and 4 touchdowns, while adding 18 rushes for 177 yards. So this guy was a guy that would play receiver sparingly, would play running back sometimes and end arounds and stuff, but he was a weapon, and they used him as such. But he ends up transferring his final year to SMU, and they moved him to running back. And at running back, usually receivers, when I'm watching receivers, these guys want to go outside. They don't have the great vision. They don't have a great feel for zone or power and, these basic running concepts. This guy does. Rashard Smith, he goes to SMU. He has 1,332 rushing yards, 14 TDs, 39 catches, and 4 TDs. This guy was used all over the field. He ran a 4.38 at the NFL Combine and just became this weapon. So for me, when I'm looking at a guy as creative as Ben Johnson, he could find a way to use this guy. Maybe there's a little bit of crossover with DeAndre Swift's ability, because Swift is a guy that receives the ball and isn't a really between the tackles type runner. But for this guy to be there at that point in the draft and a guy that has a return capability, I think he is a guy that they obviously have on their board. They brought him in for the top 30 visits. We already talked about that means they're drafting him, right? Sarcasm. But I really like this guy, and I think with Ben Johnson's creativity, you could use him in a ton of different ways.
Love it. All right, I'll start with my first safety then. So as Clay kind of alluded to, the Bears do seemingly have a need at safety. You have Kevin Byard, who is still a solid player, but getting a little long in the tooth at free safety. And then Jaquan Brisker has been cleared to play, but he's had a lot of concussions over his career. He's had trouble staying on the field just because he's such a violent player. He plays the game with such aggression, with such tenacity, that he's gotten hurt. And this is something that I spoke with Andre Curtis about either last year or the year before. I forget, because this guy has had so many injuries, about do you need to talk to Jaquan Brisker about changing the way he plays so that he can stay on the field? And Curtis basically said, no, we can't, because that's what makes Jaquan special. And if we tell him to, maybe take care of his body, as crazy as it sounds, it's not exactly the way he played it, but play with less aggression, attack the ball carrier a little less violently, that's what makes Jaquan special. That's his superpower. So you don't want to take that away from Jaquan, but you probably need a contingency plan at both strong safety and free safety. So I'm going to give you a couple different flavors. We'll start with the one flavor. This is Andrew 𝗻𝗂𝗏 out of Texas. Now, he started at Clemson and had a really, really impressive campaign, showed some good ball hawking skills, and was actually a first team All ACC player at Clemson. But then coaching change happens. He gets moved to slot corner, where he was honestly not as good. So he had a couple of 2 uninspiring seasons at slot corner. He ends up transferring to Texas for his senior season. He goes back to free safety, and all of a sudden, the playmaking ability ticks up again. The confidence seemed to tick up again. And last year, 5 interceptions, 11 PBU. And here's another thing that I think is great, because playmaking and pass coverage can be really hard, and sometimes you get penalized a lot, right? You get a little handsy, you get a little early trying to make plays on the ball. He is actually very technically sound, only 3 penalties over 4 seasons. So he's not a handsy, grabby guy. He's got the solid anticipation to time it up so that he's not arriving at the ball early. Really solid. Now, why is he a later round pick? Mentioned a couple of uninspiring seasons at slot, so he lacks that versatility that some coaches like. It's like, this guy's a free safety, and he's also a smaller dude, 5 foot 11 inches, 186 pounds. There are some questions as to, will that tackling translate? Will he be able to keep up with the bigger guys in the NFL? But there's some playmaking stuff to like. There's definite stuff to work with. So Andrew 𝗻𝗂𝗏, my first late round pick at safety for the Bears.
It's cool. It's interesting, guys, because you have to look at the Bears who are currently on the roster, and I'm kind of switching back and forth here because I think there's a consensus, right, that you need to look at safety depth regardless because of the Jaquan Brisker injury history, Kevin Byard's age. With the running back room, I think it's interesting, Clay, because you have Roschon Johnson, and also don't forget about the star of Hard Knocks, Ian Wheeler, who is coming off of an ACL injury, and obviously the last coaching staff loved him. So it'll be interesting to see what Eric Bieniemy and Ben Johnson and Declan Doyle and everyone thinks of Ian Wheeler as he comes back from that injury. But you look at those sort of late round picks and you say, okay, can this guy come in and compete with Roschon Johnson, or can this guy come in and compete with Ian Wheeler, for example? So I find it interesting. Obviously, there's some special teams value to Brashard Smith, who you were discussing, Clay. But, when you look at these sort of later round guys, and safety included, you are looking at special teams value as well, which I think is important for both of those positions. Okay, are we moving on to where are we going now? Wide receiver?
I think we got more. I had 2 safeties. Did you have 2 running backs?
Yeah, I was going to go start with tight end. Go running back, safety, tight end, wide receiver, and we'll go back through it. We'll be a little quicker this time too.
I love it.
So my first tight end is a guy that some people might think, this guy isn't a late round guy, but consensus has him from 3rd, anywhere to 5th round, and that's Harold Fanning Jr. And he's a guy that me and Alex saw at the Senior Bowl. He runs kind of funny, but, after you get past that, you realize that this guy can play. And he's a decent blocker. He showed some pop. He's a guy that's willing. But the reason he is in this range to begin with, for a guy that did set records for the amount of receiving yards, he had 1,555 receiving yards and 117 catches this year. I'm not talking about his career. I'm talking about this year. He was a tight end. And this guy aligned all over the field. He aligned in-line or wing 38% of the time, in the slot 31% of the time, and even out wide, at wide receiver 26% of the time. But the problem is he's a little bit small. He's 240 pounds at his pro day. He weighed in at 237. The combine he weighed in at 241. Wasn't a blazer in the 40. He ran a 4.71 at the combine. Broad jump, 9 foot 10 inch. Vertical jump, 34 inches. 22 reps of the bench press. So he's not a tester. He's not a blazer. But this guy can straight play football. He started out slow at the Senior Bowl, but the last couple days of practice, tore it up. Red zone, tore it up. He's quick. He in short spaces, the guy can move great. He's just a meticulous route runner and catches everything. You got to check this guy's gloves for stickum, because I don't know how he's able to catch everything that comes near him. And the best thing about him is his yak. You turn on this guy's film, he looks like a running back when he gets the ball in his hand. He's a bone boy. He catches the ball and is looking to make people miss right away. And like I said, he split time, basically a third of the time in line, a third of the time in the slot, a third of the time out wide. You pair him with Cole Kmet, a guy that can block, and then Ruthie's guy, Durham Smythe, a guy that can block, these two big blockers. You put this guy all over the field, he's a matchup problem. He can still block enough to make it a matchup if you leave a nickel there in the run game. So I think he's a guy that Ben Johnson could use in that Sam Laporta type mold, a great receiver that you can get in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round range. Harold Fanning Jr., beast, under the radar guy.
Yeah, I love that pick, Clay. And we did. We were so excited to watch him at the Senior Bowl. And I'm glad you mentioned that, like, by day 3, it looks like he had really settled in. I mean, I like that like after a so-so start, he really settled in, found his way. And you just see him being such a fun red zone target. Like, with Durham Smythe and Cole Kmet, you don't need him to do too much. Just give him some fun red zone packages and get open in the end zone, score touchdowns. You could see that being a fun impact in year 1. But I'm not talking about tight ends. I just got excited about Clay's tight end. I'm talking about wide receivers, and this is a wide receiver that I'm pretty sure Clay not so fond of. I'm going to the University of Miami for Xavier Restrepo. Now, why is Xavier?
I covered him.
Oh, okay. So
a lot of people can cover him. He runs a 4.8, Ruthie.
So that is why he is a day 3 pick. Why is Xavier Restrepo a day 3 pick? He's pretty slow. 4.83, kind of small. So he's not like the traits, not the big like athlete. I love your word, tester, not a big tester. But guess what? We don't need him to be a big tester because we have DJ Moore outside. We have Rome Odunze outside. We're just putting Xavier Restrepo in the middle to be the slot machine, and that is where he excelled at Miami. Damn near 90% of his snaps were on the inside at Miami, and he's twitchy enough. He's quick enough, agile enough to create that separation. He doesn't need to be a burner. He's going to juke you, get open, and he's got really, really nice hands. So DJ Moore, the plan is for him to be here a long time. Rome Odunze, the plan is for him to be here a long time. And I know that Ben Johnson wants to be multiple. He wants to have different personnel groups look the same and do different things, or look different and do similar things, right? That is such a key part of his thing. Xavier Restrepo doesn't necessarily fit that profile because he is a slot guy. But we know that the slot guy is important, looking at what Amon-Ra St. Brown did. So he can fit in on the inside and allow DJ Moore and Rome to play outside. He's got really good hands, and he can get open even if he's not a blazing, burning guy.
The only thing I can add there on Restrepo really is, first of all, on his character. It's a great guy to cover. I had so much fun getting to know him over some of the years that I was there. Also, obviously, his career excelled when he was paired with a competent quarterback, which Tyler Van Dyke, Cam Ward, there were a lot of opportunities for him where he really did a nice job. And I also think this is a guy with a lot of experience. I mean, I feel like he was in college for 17 years. Like, how long was he in Miami? I feel like he was there at least, what is it, maybe 4 or 5?
It might have been 5 years.
Might have gotten a COVID year mixed in there. So I think this is someone that is just, but he is little. I mean, Clay, what's your criticism of him?
No, he's just really slow. And I mean, that makes it hard to threaten a defense. I loved him at the Senior Bowl. I thought he was like a 4-5 guy, and maybe he did say he had a groin thing. Maybe during a private workout he could have ran again. But at 4.8, like I'm not the biggest guy that says, if you're a football player. But at some point, like a 4.85, whatever, a receiver, like you just have to be able to physically threaten someone. And I thought at the Senior Bowl, this guy was one of the standouts. He's one of the guys I took notes of. Ooh, Xavier Restrepo was getting open out there. But I think in the NFL, they're just going to press the crap out of this guy.
Maybe. But isn't there something about game speed and straight line speed? Because I agree with you. When we saw him at the Senior Bowl, it's like he finds a way to get open, even if he's not super fast. And I looked it up. He's a 5-year guy. His first year at Miami was 2020. So maybe a little older prospect, experienced, however you want to flip it. We'll see. He's an intriguing guy. He's an intriguing guy because you look at the numbers and you're like, wait, what? But then you look at him play and you're like, it's kind of similar to Harold Fannin, in my opinion. It's like the dude can just play.
He can play. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think that he will be a guy that can make a roster. But now it's time to move back to the last running back I have for you guys. And honestly, this guy fits the same exact mold of Brashard Smith, the running back I gave you. Firstly, the Miami transfer to SMU. And this guy is a guy you might know if you watched the college football playoff last year from Texas, because he scored 2 touchdowns receiving, and he's a running back. This guy, Jadon Blue. Jadon Blue is another guy. You hear about him, you watch the game there, and you wonder, why is this guy going to fall? And partially it's because they don't know how he's going to be able to run between the tackles. But this dude is explosive. He's a 4th to 5th round range for most places. At his pro day, he ran a 4.29, Alex, 4.29. This guy can absolutely fly. He had 730 rushing yards. He also had 42 receptions and 6 touchdowns and almost 400 yards receiving. For Texas, this guy could do everything. He's lining up inside. He's lining up outside. He's running the ball inside. He's running the ball outside. Once again, there might be a little conflict of interest with DeAndre Swift because it's a similar skill set. But when the value you would getting Jadon Blue in the 5th Another guy that has that special teams value as well was return man, a guy that can just straight up fly, that you can put at slot receiver, that you can put outside, that can just do a ton of different things in Ben Johnson's system. Home run hitter. You can get real creative with him. I think he's a guy that just jumps off the page when you look at late round running backs. Jadon Blue, Texas.
Can I ask a question, since we're talking about 40 times here? It's kind of become a theme here for a minute. Why didn't Ashton Jeanty run the 40?
He didn't need to.
He didn't need to. Like, for him, it's like, what is a 40 going to do to help you? It's not that maybe he's hiding something. Even if he does run like a 4.4, 4.5, if he runs a 4.4, 4.3, how much higher can you go? There's already teams talking about taking this guy 5th, 6th round pick in the draft. If you run a 4.6, if you run a low 4.5, okay, now people, he's not fast enough. He's going to drop the 20s. So
another
high risk.
Another part of that too, and I'm answering my own question here a little bit, but like training for the 40 is very different than training for, your private workouts or, the NFL, or getting a head start on, being, in top tier running back shape. Training for a 40 is a very different skill set that, DJ Moore isn't outside like practicing his 40 every day. He's like, he's working on his skills, like his football skills. So I do think that's also probably part of it too. And training for your 40, it takes up time, takes up energy, takes up, other things that he maybe feels is not something that he needs to be spending his time and energy on.
It's the same reason Caleb Williams didn't do anything in the combine. It's the same reason that Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't do anything in the combine. It's they didn't have really anything to gain. Worst case scenario, you end up like Tyleik Williams and you hurt yourself, I mean, obviously there's the chance that you don't test as well and you hurt your draft stock. I mean, truly worst case scenario, you can injure yourself doing these things. And Marvin Harrison Jr. said exactly what you just said, Ruthie, when people said, why aren't you doing the 40? He's like, yeah, I'm going to be training for football. You can turn on my tape if you would like to see me run. And I will be getting ready for training camp. And didn't hurt Caleb Williams' draft stock. Didn't hurt Marvin Harrison Jr.'s draft stock, QB1, wide receiver 1.
Absolutely. Let's fly through these last couple here because we're running up on it.
Okay, for sure. My second safety, we're looking for another strong safety to play behind Jaquan Brisker. How about a guy who looks a lot like Jaquan Brisker and also comes from Penn State University?
Okay.
Jalen Reed is my guy. I mean, this guy, great downhill, like gets his nose in there in the run game, attacks the football, great near the line of scrimmage, big hitter, and again, like Jaquan Brisker, he's so similar.
He was taken in Dane Brugler's mock today. You and Dane Brugler are thinking
the Bears?
The same to the Bears.
Oh, yo! All right, if I'm thinking like Dane Brugler, then I'm doing something.
Draft expert.
I wonder if that was in the recesses of my brain as I was going through this. But this guy, he gets so excited making big plays where it's like, wait, that's the Jaquan Brisker energy that I see. Why is he a later round draft pick? Expert scouts, they see some inconsistencies in his technique, things that I might not notice, but that's what the experts say. There are some inconsistencies there. But if the Bears can coach him up, get him to play consistently, like you can teach the technique, you can take a late round flyer on a guy. You cannot teach the intensity. You cannot teach the energy and the intensity with which he plays. So Jalen Reed, Penn State, safety to look at.
Okay, real quick, I'm just going to give you my tight end here. Oronde Gadsden, he was a guy that came into college at wide receiver, quiet freshman year at wide receiver. That's what I did. I was a wide receiver. Then he moved to tight end, and at tight end, he really broke out. He set the Syracuse record for a tight end, and he had 61 catches for 969 yards. That's pretty impressive. 6'5", 243 pounds. Okay, why is this guy going to drop? He's not much of a blocker. For me, he looks like a poor man Jimmy Graham. But as far as straight line speed, he ran a 4.59 at the pro day. The guy can get open. He runs great routes. He's a big target. He's a guy that can catch anything on his body. He's a guy you could probably get in the 5th, 6th round just because he lacks the blocking ability. But if you want a big red zone target, a guy that you can throw the ball to, big body, Oronde Gadsden, his dad played in the NFL for 7 years, if that name sounds familiar. He is a junior. the second, actually. So he's a guy the Bears could look at to pair with Cole Kmet and Ruthie's guy, Durham-Smythe, as another blocker.
All right. And I've got Kyle Williams, a wide receiver out of Washington State. So why is he a later round guy? He is small. He is not very strong. He does not play special teams, and he is not an excellent blocker. So those are a lot of negatives. Let's get that out of the way. But what he is he is very, very fast. He has excellent big play home run ability, and he's a vertical threat, which is something that's kind of missing right now in that Bears offense. You know, I wouldn't consider DJ Moore to be like the vertical guy. Can he do it? Yes. Rome Odunze, can he do the contested catch stuff? Yes. These aren't guys that take the top off of a defense, though. And we, expect some sort of vertical threat to be like a Jameson Williams type guy. Jameson Williams also does not play special teams. So obviously Ben Johnson's okay with having a home run dude who doesn't play teams on his roster. And this guy produced a ton last year, nearly 1,200 yards, 14 touchdowns. So he can be a big-time, big play guy, even if not the greatest blocker, doesn't participate on teams.
Dang, yeah, he's a player. I like him. Like you said, 1,200 yards, 14 touchdowns. Men lie, women lie. Numbers don't. This guy puts up numbers, okay? He puts up numbers. This guy knows how to play football, and I don't care. He's a guy, like you said, that can blow the top off of defense. If he's there in the later rounds, absolutely. Scoop him up. Give him to Ben. No block, no rock. He'll get him blocking. I like it.
Love it. Is that all we got?
That's it.
That's all we got.
We flew through it for you. We flew through it for you.
Staying here all day throwing guys back and forth.
I was just like, whoa, trying to keep up. No, love it, guys. That was great stuff. That is gonna probably get us through to Monday. Don't expect a ton of news over the weekend. I think we'll have a lot of content for everyone next week, obviously leading up to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all the things. So great stuff from Alex and Clay, guys. Got my notepad out, filling it up with all my notes, and appreciate you both. Appreciate you for listening. And we'll be back here with the Charter Podcast, brought to you by St. Xavier University on Monday.